Many of us, even as adults, struggle to figure out how to manage conflict and how to know when we engage in conflict and when to stay out of it. And today we're going to talk about that as it regards friendships and romantic relationships. Hi, I'm Babs. It's great to see you again as we lean in together to build a better life. Today, we're going to talk about managing conflict. First of all, I want to talk about our partnership and romantic relationships. It's really important to know that we quickly move into patterns of behavior in romantic relationships, especially after we have been in that relationship for a while. We get into patterns. Some of them are great, like maybe we always kiss each other when we see each other. Maybe we always say, I love you when we say goodbye, either leaving the house or on the phone. Maybe we have patterns of romantic texts and kind words, affirmative words that help our partner feel good about themselves and to remember that we are thinking of them in positive ways. But we also, on the other side, can really get into patterns of conflict that are much less helpful. Let me give you an example. At times, we can enter patterns of conflict where one person will say something that irritates the other. Maybe they will say, "What did you do today?" with a sort of, "The house looks messy. Did you do anything today?" kind of tone of voice. Maybe that was meant like that, maybe it wasn't. The other partner might feel immediately defensive and say, "I've been working all day. I've been doing stuff." Or, "I didn't feel well." Or, "Why are you asking me that? Why are you always criticizing me?" And then the first partner comes back and says, "Well, I hate coming home to a messy home. You've been home all day. Why isn't the house cleaner?" And the other spouse will say, or the other partner will say, "Is it really my job? I've been doing things all day. Either I've been sick, or maybe I was dealing with the kids, or I had to work all day. I work from home. You know I'm busy too." And we get in this conflict of the more you say this, the more I say that. Then the more you say this, the more I'm going to come back and say that. And we just get into this conflict of the more, the more, the more, the more. And it's very difficult to break out of that pattern. If we want to break out of that pattern, what somebody is going to have to do is say, "I'm going to stop my part in this. I'm not going to engage in the more, the more. I'm going to actually stop and say, you know what? I'm sorry I just said that. I'm going to need a few minutes. I'll come back to you. I'm not trying to give you the silent treatment. I will come back. But right now, I need to excuse myself and go over here. I need to do something else for a while because I want to be able to give you my best self. I want to be able to come back to this discussion so that we can have a good, reasonable discussion so that we are not in conflict over this. And I realize that I feel really upset by this or angry or activated, whatever word you want to use. And I don't want to give you that back. I want to be able to come back. I love you. I want to be able to come back to you with a better response. I don't want to just come back to you with my worst self. Then take a break. But it's important that this is not the silent treatment. It's important that when we excuse ourselves from conflict, that we are willing to come back. So let's remember that. We don't leave conflict in order to make a point. We leave conflict so that we can come back in a better state of mind. Let me say that one more time. We don't leave conflict to make a point or to punish the other person. We leave conflict so that we can come back a better partner and ready to make amends or to repair what's happened or to work through the conflict in a more reasoned way. Does this make sense to you? I hope it does, because this is very critically important in relationships, especially in partnership relationships, where we may have gotten into some negative patterns and we need to reestablish a more positive way of working through things that bother us. Now I'd like to briefly address our other relationships, maybe in friendships or at work. When there is conflict, these same principles apply. We can realize that we may have a way of communicating with other people that is off-putting. If everybody else is put off by the way we communicate, it is our issue, not theirs. That's important to remember. If everybody else always irritates you, it's you, not them. That's a good rule of thumb to remember, that we need to always look inward and say, is there something I need to improve in the way I communicate with others? So if I come into conflict and I find myself often in conflict with friends, I may not have friends very often or for very long. If I am in conflict often at work, and I'm not the boss, I may not keep my job very long. I may not be able to hold a job. I need to figure out how to handle conflict on the job or with friends. I need to begin to say, are there areas that I just don't need to discuss with this person? Maybe I need to stop bringing my politics into my friendship when I know it's a hot button. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't respect each other's opinions, but it may just be better to not talk about that area, especially in our current climate. I would suggest that as a general rule, politics are not something that is a great idea to bring into the workplace. You don't know how someone really feels about an issue, a political issue, or a candidate. And we want to be careful that we are considerate of other people's feelings in the workplace and in deeper friendships. We need to be careful that if that is a hot spot for someone else, that will probably quickly be discovered. But the point is, maybe that's not an appropriate venue to air your brilliant thinking about your political opinions. Maybe those are something you bring up in your family. Again, being careful, being respectful of other people's opinions as well. This is just Relationships 101. So important, so crucial to developing and keeping good relationships. I hope we can remember that when we have patterns of behavior with romantic partners, with friendships, at work, that we remember how to communicate, how to step away from conflict, and to be able to come back when it's appropriate and say, I'm ready to discuss this now. And also when to avoid topics in certain areas with friendships or at work and sometimes with family that you know will create conflict for them or for yourself. Let's be careful with our communication, but also honest. And we can honestly avoid some topics if we know those are appropriate to avoid. I hope we can lean into wellness together to build a better life. Great to see you.